The flash of the camera was like lightning in the dimly lit vineyard, capturing the exact moment Bella Reinhart realized she was utterly and completely out of her element. This wasn't just another wedding gig, it was her college roommate, Mia's vow renewal. And somehow Bella had been roped into being both guest and photographer. Balancing a champagne flute in one hand and her professional camera in the other, she scanned the twilight ceremony where fairy lights twinkled overhead like captured stars. "Just one more," Bella called out, adjusting her lens as Mia and her husband James embraced beneath an arch of roses. The California sunset painted everything in golden hues, making her job almost too easy. This was the kind of light photographers dreamed of. As she lowered her camera, someone bumped her elbow from behind, nearly sending her champagne flying. "Sorry about that," came a deep voice, warm with genuine apology. "Hazard of trying to navigate through a crowd with drinks, I suppose." Bella turned to find herself looking way up into the most piercing blue eyes she'd ever seen. The man stood at least a foot taller than her, with broad shoulders filling out an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. His dark hair was cropped short at the sides but longer on top, slightly tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. "No harm done," she replied, managing a smile despite the flutter in her stomach. "Camera's safe and that's all that matters professionally speaking." "Ah, you're the photographer," he offered his hand. "Quentin Quinn. Best man, and generally the guy who's supposed to keep everything running smoothly, which I'm clearly failing at by nearly taking out the photographer." His handshake was firm but not overpowering. Bella noted the expensive watch peeking from beneath his sleeve cuff, but it was his easy smile that held her attention. "Bella Reinhart, and I'm actually just doing this as a favor for Mia. We were roommates in college." "So you're both guest and working staff?" Quentin raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like you got the short end of the stick," Bella laughed. "It's not so bad. I get to hide behind my camera when the small talk gets overwhelming." "A brilliant strategy," he agreed with a grin. "I might have to borrow your camera later when James's uncle starts telling his fishing stories." A woman in a flowing dress approached, tapping Quentin on the shoulder. "Sorry to interrupt, but James is looking for you. Something about the toast, duty calls," Quentin said to Bella with a slight bow. "I hope we run into each other again, preferably without actual running into each other." As he walked away, Bella found herself watching him longer than necessary. There was something magnetic about him that went beyond his obvious good looks. Shaking her head, she reminded herself she was here to work, not develop a crush on the best man. The evening progressed, with the gentle rhythm of carefully planned celebrations. Bella moved through the crowd, capturing candid moments. The elderly couple who had been married 60 years dancing slowly to a modern love song. The flower girl falling asleep under a table with cake frosting on her cheek. Mia wiping away a tear as James recited new vows he'd written for their 5th anniversary. During the toasts, Bella found herself paying more attention to Quentin than her photography duties required. He spoke with confidence but warmth about his friendship with James, weaving in humorous anecdotes that had the crowd laughing without ever making James the butt of the joke. It was an art form, and Quentin was clearly a master. "He's something, isn't he?" Mia appeared at Bella's side, her eyes twinkling. "Who?" Bella asked, feigning ignorance poorly. "Please. I've known you for 12 years. You haven't taken your eyes off Quentin since he started speaking." Mia sipped her champagne with a knowing smile. "I'm just doing my job, getting good reaction shots during the toast. MMHMM. And I suppose your job also requires that little smile you get whenever he makes a joke." Bella felt her cheeks warm. "He's a good speaker. Very articulate." "Very articulate," Mia laughed. "That's the best you can come up with." The man runs Horizon Industries, one of the largest shipping and logistics companies in the country, and you're impressed by his articulation. Bella nearly choked on her champagne. Wait, he's that Quentin Quinn. The CEO of Horizon, the very same, Mia confirmed. Self-made, brilliant, and single, in case you were wondering. I wasn't, Bella lied, adjusting her camera strap unnecessarily. Well, consider yourself informed anyway. Mia squeezed her arm, and he's been looking at you too, by the way. Before Bella could respond, Mia was pulled away by another guest, leaving Bella to process this new information. The man she'd been quietly admiring all evening wasn't just James's charming friend, he was Quentin Quinn, the business prodigy who had transformed a regional shipping company into a global enterprise before the age of 35. As the night wore on, Bella found herself increasingly aware of Quentin's presence. He seemed to be everywhere at once, solving problems before they arose, making sure guests were happy, all while maintaining conversations that had people laughing or nodding thoughtfully. It was like watching a conductor lead an orchestra, except instead of music, he was orchestrating the perfect evening for his friend. Later, as the dancing began in earnest, Bella stepped away to review some of her shots. She found a quiet spot near the edge of the vineyard where fairy lights illuminated rows of grapevines stretching into the darkness. Getting some artistic night shots. Quentin's voice came from behind her. Bella turned, hoping the dim lighting hid her blush. Actually, just reviewing what I've taken so far, making sure I haven't missed anything important. Mind if I see? He moved beside her, close enough that she caught the subtle scent of his cologne, something woody with hints of citrus. She hesitated, but then turned the camera display toward him, scrolling through some of her favorite shots from the evening. "These are incredible," he said, genuine admiration in his voice. "You've got a real talent for capturing moments people don't even realize are happening." "Thank you," she replied, surprised by how much his praise meant. "It's all about patience and paying attention." "Is this really just a favor for Mia, or do you do this professionally?" "Both, actually. I run my own photography business, mostly weddings and events, some portrait work. But Mia and I go way back, so this one's on the house." Quentin nodded approvingly. "An entrepreneur, I respect that." "Well, I wouldn't exactly compare my little operation to Horizon Industries," she said with a small laugh. His eyebrows shot up. "So you know who I am?" Mia might have mentioned it. Bella shrugged, aiming for nonchalance. "Don't worry, I won't ask for business advice or investment tips." "That's refreshing," he admitted. "Usually once people figure out what I do, the conversation changes." "Well, tonight you're just the best man, and I'm just the photographer/guest," she smiled. "Although I'm curious, how did you and James meet? College roommates, actually, just like you and Mia." "James was the only person in our dorm who didn't treat me differently when my first business took off." His expression softened at the memory. "We've been friends ever since." "What was your first business?" Bella asked, genuinely interested. "A campus delivery service." "Nothing groundbreaking, just connecting local restaurants with hungry students before all those apps existed," he laughed. "I had a fleet of 3 bicycles and 5 very underpaid friends. That's how empires start, I guess. Small but smart. What about you? How did you get into photography?" Bella glanced down at her camera. "My dad gave me my first camera when I was 12, after my mom died. He thought it might help me process things, having something to focus on besides the grief." She hadn't meant to share something so personal, but something about Quentin made her feel at ease. "Did it help?" he asked softly. "It did. It became my way of making sense of the world, finding beauty in small moments, preserving memories." She smiled. "Plus, it turned out I was pretty good at it. Based on these," he gestured to her camera, "that's an understatement." A comfortable silence fell between them, the kind that usually takes months or years of friendship to achieve. In the background, the reception continued, but it felt distant, as if they had stepped into their own private bubble. The moment was broken by Mia's voice over the microphone, announcing the final dance of the evening. Quentin glanced toward the tent, then back at Bella. "I should probably get back," he said, though he didn't move immediately. "Me too. More moments to capture." Neither made a move to leave until Quentin finally took a step back. "It was nice talking with you, Bella Reinhart." "Likewise, Quentin Quinn." He turned to go but stopped. "Would it be completely inappropriate if I asked for your number? Maybe we could continue this conversation sometime when you're not working and I'm not on best man duty." Bella's heart skipped. "I think that would be completely appropriate." They exchanged phones, each entering their number into the other's contacts. When Quentin handed back her phone, his fingers brushed against hers, sending a current of electricity up her arm. "I'll call you," he promised, his blue eyes intent on hers. "And not with a business proposition." "I'll hold you to that," she replied, surprised by her own boldness. As they walked back to the reception together, Bella couldn't help wondering if this was the beginning of something unexpected, something that had nothing to do with photography or shipping empires, and everything to do with two people connecting in the glow of fairy lights and new possibilities. The week after Mia's vow renewal passed in a blur for Bella. She threw herself into editing the photos, determined to deliver them faster than her usual timeline. It wasn't just professional pride driving her. She'd been checking her phone more frequently than she cared to admit, waiting for Quentin to call as promised. By Friday, when her phone remained stubbornly silent on the Quentin front, Bella had convinced herself she'd misread the entire situation. After all, CEO types were notoriously busy. He'd probably forgotten about their conversation as soon as he'd returned to the real world of board meetings and business deals. She was in her small home studio, finishing the last batch of edits when her phone finally buzzed with an unknown number. Her heart leapt, but she forced herself to wait until the third ring before answering. "Hello, Bella Reinhart speaking," she said, aiming for professional but probably landing closer to nervous. "Bella, it's Quentin Quinn." His voice was just as she remembered, deep and warm. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Just finishing some edits, actually. The vow renewal photos. Perfect timing then. I've been thinking about our conversation all week, but didn't want to call until I had my schedule sorted out." There was a pause. "I'd like to see you again if you're interested. Dinner, perhaps?" Bella smiled to herself, grateful he couldn't see her expression. "I'd like that." "Great. How does tomorrow night sound? I know a place that does amazing seafood." "Unless you don't like seafood, in which case I know several other excellent options." His slight nervousness was endearing, so different from the confident best man who'd smoothly navigated the wedding reception. "Seafood sounds perfect," she assured him. "What time?" "I could pick you up around 7. After exchanging details, Bella hung up and immediately called Mia, who answered on the first ring as if she'd been waiting for the call. "Finally," Mia exclaimed. "I was starting to think he'd lost his nerve." "You knew he was going to call?" Bella asked, surprised. "James mentioned Quentin had been asking about you. Apparently, he wanted to make sure you were actually single before making a move. Very gentlemanly of him." "He's taking me to dinner tomorrow night," Bella admitted, unable to keep the excitement from her voice. "Wear that blue dress, the one with the wrap-style top. It makes your eyes pop." "I'm not taking fashion advice from someone who wore Crocs to her own graduation. That was for comfort, and I'm a married woman now. I've evolved. Trust me on the dress." After hanging up with Mia, Bella returned to her editing with renewed focus. If she could finish tonight, she'd have all of Saturday to prepare for the date. Not that she was nervous about going out with one of the country's most successful young CEOs or anything. Saturday evening arrived with unseasonable warmth for early spring. Bella had indeed chosen the blue dress Mia suggested, though she'd never admit it was because of her friend's advice. She was applying a final touch of lipstick when her doorbell rang at precisely 7 o'clock. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find Quentin standing there in dark slacks and a light blue button-down shirt that complemented his eyes perfectly. He'd foregone a tie, and the casual elegance suited him. "You look beautiful," he said simply, his gaze taking her in with undisguised appreciation. "Thank you," she replied, feeling a flush creep up her neck. "You clean up pretty well yourself when you're not on best man duty," he laughed. "The bar is pretty low when your previous encounter involved me nearly spilling drinks on you." The restaurant was nestled on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, small and elegant without being stuffy. Bella was impressed by how the staff greeted Quentin warmly, but not overly deferential, suggesting he was a regular but not one who flaunted his status. After they were seated at a corner table with a spectacular view of the sunset over the water, Quentin ordered a bottle of wine based on a brief conversation with the sommelier. "I hope you don't think I'm showing off," he said once they were alone. "I just come here often enough that Felipe knows my preferences better than I do." "It's nice, actually," Bella admitted. "I rarely go anywhere fancy enough to have a sommelier, let alone one who knows me by name." "Would it make you feel better to know I had ramen for lunch that I microwaved in the office kitchen?" she laughed. "Surprisingly, yes, although I'm having trouble picturing the CEO of Horizon Industries waiting for the microwave like a regular person." "Oh, I'm very regular in many respects." His eyes crinkled with humor. "I burn toast, I lose my keys, I binge-watch terrible sci-fi shows when I can't sleep. Now that last one I don't believe. You seem like the type to read economic journals for fun." "I do that too," he admitted with a grin. "But after a particularly grueling board meeting, nothing beats watching people in bad alien makeup discussing the fate of made-up galaxies." Their conversation flowed easily through appetizers and into the main course. Bella found herself captivated not just by Quentin's stories of building his business, but by his genuine interest in her work and life. He asked thoughtful questions about her photography, listened intently to her answers, and shared his own perspectives without dominating the conversation. "So how does someone go from running a college delivery service to heading a global shipping empire?" Bella asked as they shared a decadent chocolate souffle that somehow managed to be both light and rich. "Luck, timing, and a pathological inability to stop working," he answered with a self-deprecating smile. "The short version is that I sold my college business to a local entrepreneur, used that money to start a regional shipping company focusing on efficiency and technology, and grew it from there. The long version involves a lot of sleepless nights, some spectacular failures, and one very fortuitous meeting with an investor who believed in my vision when most people thought I was too young and inexperienced." "And now," she prompted. "Still sleepless nights?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "But I'm learning to delegate. My team would tell you I'm still terrible at it, but I'm trying." He paused, studying her. "What about you? Any plans to expand your photography business?" Bella considered the question. "I've thought about opening a proper studio instead of working from home, maybe taking on an assistant. But I like the hands-on aspect of what I do. I'm not sure I want to grow to the point where I'm managing other photographers instead of taking pictures myself." "That makes perfect sense," he nodded approvingly. "Growth for growth's sake isn't always the right path. Finding the scale that lets you do what you love while making a good living, that's the sweet spot. She tilted her head, pleasantly surprised. That's not what I expected a CEO to say. I'm full of surprises, he replied with a wink. For instance, I also make a mean blueberry pancake, but that's information I only share on a second date. Is that your subtle way of asking if there will be a second date? Not subtle at all, he admitted. I'm very much hoping there will be. Their eyes met across the table, and Bella felt that same connection she'd experienced at the Vow Renewal, a sense of understanding that went beyond the surface level of attraction. I'd like that, she said softly. After dinner, they walked along the cliffside path near the restaurant. The night air had cooled, and Quentin draped his jacket over Bella's shoulders without comment. The weight and warmth of it enveloped her, carrying his scent. Tell me something most people don't know about you, she prompted as they paused to watch the moonlight on the water below. Quentin was quiet for a moment, as if weighing his response. I almost quit everything 3 years ago. This wasn't what Bella had expected. What happened? We were expanding internationally. The stress was incredible: regulatory issues in different countries, currency fluctuations, cultural differences in business practices. I was working 20-hour days, barely sleeping. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture somehow vulnerable. One morning I woke up and couldn't remember what day it was or what city I was in. I realized I'd built this successful company but had no life outside of it. No real connections except for a few old friends like James. What changed? She asked, genuinely curious. I hired better people, he said with a small laugh, and I started saying no to things, set boundaries, learned that the company wouldn't collapse if I took a weekend off occasionally. Is that why you're here tonight? Part of your work-life balance initiative? He turned to face her, his expression serious. No, I'm here tonight because meeting you made me feel something I haven't felt in a long time, something that has nothing to do with business or obligations or networking, just connection. The honesty in his voice took her breath away. I felt it too, she admitted. At the renewal, it was unexpected. Quentin took a step closer, his hand gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. May I? He asked softly. Bella nodded, her heart racing as he leaned down to kiss her. His lips were warm and gentle at first, then more insistent as she responded. She felt herself melting into him, her hands finding their way to his shoulders. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Quentin rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since I saw you adjusting your camera with that look of complete concentration on your face. I'm glad you waited, she murmured. It would have made for some very awkward photos if you'd kissed the photographer mid-event. He laughed, the sound deep and genuine. True, though I think Mia would have approved. Mia would have documented it and used it in her toast. As they walked back to the car hand in hand, Bella felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. There was something both thrilling and comfortable about being with Quentin, like finding a piece of herself she hadn't realized was missing. At her door later that night, after another kiss that left her dizzy, Quentin confirmed plans for their second date, a casual afternoon at a local farmer's market, followed by him making those promised blueberry pancakes at his place. Just so we're clear, he said with a smile, this is me asking you on a proper breakfast date, not a presumptuous overnight invitation. Understood, she laughed. Although if your pancakes are as good as you claim, I might have to reconsider my stance on breakfast-only dates. As she watched him drive away, Bella leaned against her door, allowing herself to feel the full weight of possibility opening before her. Whatever was happening between them felt real in a way her past relationships hadn't. And for once, she wasn't looking at it through a lens, she was fully present. experiencing every moment as it unfolded. Over the next few weeks, Bella and Quentin fell into a rhythm that somehow accommodated both of their busy schedules. When Quentin had to travel for business, they would FaceTime late into the night, sharing details of their days and learning each other's habits and preferences. When he was in town, they spent nearly every free moment together. Bella discovered that Quentin really did make exceptional blueberry pancakes. He learned that she sang off-key to 80s power ballads when she was editing photos. They both realized they shared a love of old bookstores, obscure documentaries, and walking in the rain. 1 month into their relationship, Quentin invited Bella to accompany him to an important charity gala. It would be their first public appearance together in his professional world. "Are you sure you want me there?" she asked, as they discussed it over dinner at her place. "Won't all your business associates be present?" "Exactly why I want you there," he replied, twirling pasta onto his fork. "Those events are usually mind-numbingly dull. Having you beside me would make it not just bearable but enjoyable." "I don't know anything about shipping logistics or international trade agreements," she warned. "I might embarrass you." Quentin set down his fork and took her hand across the table. "Bella, you could never embarrass me. Besides, no one talks about shipping logistics at these things. It's all small talk and subtle business maneuvering disguised as philanthropy." He smiled. "Just bring your camera. You can hide behind it if the conversation gets overwhelming, remember? Using my own strategy against me," she laughed. "Fine, I'll come, but don't expect me to charm any potential investors for you." "The only person I care about charming is you," he said softly. The night of the gala arrived with all the fanfare of a major society event. Held at the city's most prestigious hotel, it drew the elite of the business world under the guise of raising money for ocean conservation, a cause Quentin genuinely cared about. Bella wore a floor-length emerald gown that complemented her auburn hair, while Quentin looked devastatingly handsome in a classic black tuxedo. As his driver delivered them to the red carpet entrance, Bella felt a momentary panic. "There are photographers," she whispered, gripping his arm. "Just smile and keep walking," he advised, his hand covering hers reassuringly. "Remember, you're usually on the other side of the lens. You know these people are just doing their job." True to his word, Quentin guided her through the gauntlet of cameras with ease, pausing briefly for photos but not lingering. Inside, the ballroom was transformed into an underwater wonderland, with blue lighting and silk draperies creating the illusion of ocean waves. "Quentin, there you are." A woman in her 50s approached, air kissing both his cheeks before turning a curious gaze on Bella. "And who is this lovely creature?" "Margaret, this is Bella Reinhart. Bella Margaret Chen, one of our board members and a dear friend." "Bella," Margaret repeated, assessing her with shrewd eyes. "What is it you do, my dear?" "I'm a photographer," Bella replied, proud of how steady her voice sounded despite her nerves. "A creative," Margaret nodded approvingly. "That explains it." "Explains what?" Quentin asked, a protective edge to his voice. "Why you look happier than I've seen you in years, of course." Margaret winked at Bella. "He's been absolutely impossible to work with lately, distracted, checking his phone constantly, smiling at inappropriate moments during budget meetings. Now I understand why." Bella felt a blush creep up her cheeks as Quentin cleared his throat. "If you'll excuse us, Margaret, I see the mayor waiting to speak with us." As they moved through the crowd, Quentin introduced Bella to countless people, business associates, politicians, other philanthropists. To her surprise, she found herself enjoying the conversations. Many people seemed genuinely interested in her photography, and those who weren't at least pretended politely. "You're a natural at this," Quentin murmured as they finally found a moment alone by the champagne fountain. At what? Making small talk with people who earn more in a day than I do in a year. At being yourself regardless of who you're talking to, he corrected. Do you know how rare that is in these circles? Everyone's usually calculating what they can gain from each interaction. Before she could respond, a tall man with silver hair approached, clapping Quentin on the shoulder. Quinn, just the man I wanted to see. That Asia-Pacific deal, brilliant move. I've got some investors who want to talk to you about the expansion. Richard, Quentin nodded politely. Thank you. May I introduce Bella Reinhart? Bella, this is Richard Blackwood, CEO of Transcontinental Shipping. A competitor, Bella asked, accepting Richard's firm handshake. A friendly rival, Richard corrected with a wolfish smile. Your young man here has been giving us a run for our money these past few years. Quite the business prodigy. So I've heard, Bella smiled, glancing at Quentin, who looked slightly uncomfortable with the praise. I've been meaning to call you Quinn, Richard continued, barely acknowledging Bella now. We should discuss the Singapore situation before it gets out of hand. I'm here with Bella tonight, Richard, Quentin replied smoothly. Business can wait until Monday. Richard's eyebrows rose slightly, his gaze flicking back to Bella with new interest. Of course. Pleasure to meet you, Miss Reinhart. As he walked away, Bella turned to Quentin. The Singapore situation sounds ominous. Just typical industry politics, he shrugged. Nothing that can't wait. Tonight is about us, not business. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of dancing, champagne, and more introductions than Bella could possibly remember. Throughout it all, Quentin kept her close, his hand often finding hers or resting gently at the small of her back, small gestures that grounded her in the unfamiliar environment. Later, as they swayed to the live orchestra on the dance floor, Bella realized she was enjoying herself far more than she'd expected. You look thoughtful, Quentin observed, his arm secure around her waist. I was just thinking that this world isn't as intimidating as I imagined. That's because you belong in any world you choose, he said simply. You have this authentic quality that people respond to. Haven't you noticed how everyone lights up when you start talking about your photography? You're passionate about what you do, and it shows. Bella looked up at him, suddenly overwhelmed by how much she cared for this man who saw her so clearly. Quentin, I know, he interrupted softly. Me too. As the music swelled around them, he lowered his head to kiss her, not caring who might be watching. In that moment, surrounded by wealth and power, all that mattered was the connection between them, real and undeniable. Later that night, as they stood outside Bella's apartment door, neither seemed ready to say goodnight. Would you like to come in? She asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Quentin's eyes darkened. Are you sure? Instead of answering, Bella unlocked her door and led him inside, turning to face him in the dimly lit entryway. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the air between them charged with anticipation. Then Quentin closed the distance between them, his kiss deeper and more urgent than before. Bella responded in kind, her hands working at his bow tie as he unzipped her gown with careful hands. They moved toward her bedroom, leaving a trail of formal wear behind them. When they finally fell onto her bed, their bodies meeting with an intensity that took her breath away, Bella knew she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. In the quiet aftermath, as they lay tangled in her sheets, Quentin traced patterns on her bare shoulder. I should tell you something, he murmured. Bella was too content to feel concerned. I think I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, honest and unadorned. Bella propped herself up on one elbow, looking down into his face. What she saw there, vulnerability, hope, and something deeper, made her heart swell. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered back. His smile was radiant as he pulled her down for another kiss, sealing their confession in the darkness of her room, far from the glittering gala and the expectations of the outside world. As spring blossomed into summer, Bella and Quentin's relationship deepened in ways neither had anticipated. They developed routines that felt both comfortable and exciting: Sunday morning coffee at a local cafe, impromptu photography excursions when Quentin could steal away from work, quiet evenings cooking together at his spacious penthouse or her cozy apartment. For Bella, watching Quentin balance his demanding career with their relationship was a revelation. He made time for her not as an afterthought but as a priority, often rearranging meetings or delegating tasks to ensure they had quality time together. "My team thinks you're a miracle worker," he told her one evening as they sat on his balcony overlooking the city lights. "Apparently I'm more efficient and less of a micromanager since I met you." "Is that so?" she grinned, tucking her feet under his leg on the outdoor sofa. "Should I be charging Horizon Industries a consulting fee?" "Absolutely. I'll have HR draw up a contract immediately, happiness consultant to the CEO." He leaned over to kiss her temple. "Seriously though, you've changed how I see my life, Bella. Before you, it was all about the next deal, the next expansion. Now I'm actually planning my schedule around a person instead of profit margins." "That's very romantic in a corporate sort of way," she teased, but her heart swelled at his words. The summer brought new opportunities for Bella's photography business as well. A client whose wedding she had photographed recommended her to a high-end lifestyle magazine, leading to a series of assignments that challenged and excited her creatively. "They want me to shoot a feature on coastal living," she told Quentin over dinner one night in July. "It's a 2-week assignment up and down the California coastline." "That's fantastic." His enthusiasm was genuine, though she caught the brief flicker of disappointment that crossed his face at the thought of 2 weeks apart. "When do you leave?" "Next Monday. But there's something else." She took a deep breath. "They mentioned that if this goes well, they might offer me a regular contributor contract. It would mean more travel, but also more stability and exposure for my work." Quentin reached across the table for her hand. "Bella, that's incredible. You absolutely deserve this opportunity." "But what about us?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. "I know we've only been together for a few months, but already the thought of being away from you for 2 weeks is hard enough. If this becomes regular work." "Then we'll figure it out," he said firmly. "My job requires travel too. We'll coordinate schedules, meet up in exotic locations, rack up frequent flyer miles." His thumb brushed over her knuckles. "This is important to you, which makes it important to me. I want you to succeed, Bella. I want to watch your career grow just as much as I want our relationship to grow." Relief flooded through her. "I was worried you might think it was too soon for us to be planning around each other this way." "Too soon?" He laughed softly. "Bella, I started rearranging my life for you after our first date. I think we're well past too soon." The coastal shoot was both exhilarating and exhausting for Bella. Each day brought new locations, new challenges, and new opportunities to push her creative boundaries. The magazine's art director was impressed with her work, often giving her freedom to follow her own instincts rather than adhering strictly to the planned shots. Throughout the 2 weeks, Quentin was her anchor. They spoke every night, no matter how late. He seemed genuinely interested in the technical aspects of her shoots, asking questions that showed he was really listening, not just making conversation. In turn, she found herself engaged in his stories about board meetings and contract negotiations, learning the language of his world just as he was learning hers. On her last night on assignment, staying at a boutique hotel in Big Sur, Bella called Quentin as usual, expecting their normal bedtime conversation. Instead, he sounded distracted and slightly out of breath. "Sorry, terrible connection," he said after his third. "Can you hear me now?" "I'm actually in the middle of something unexpected." "Oh, I can call back tomorrow." No, he interrupted. "Just give me 1 second to get to a better spot." There was rustling and what sounded like a door opening and closing. Then his voice came through clearly. "Much better." "How was your last day of shooting?" "It was amazing. We caught this perfect sunset at Pfeiffer Beach. The light through the rock arch was exactly what we'd been hoping for." She paused. "Are you sure this isn't a bad time? You sound busy." "I'm never too busy for you," he replied, and something in his tone made her heart skip. "Actually, could you do me a favor? Could you open your hotel room door, my door?" "Why would I?" She stopped, realization dawning. "Quentin Quinn, are you here?" His low chuckle was all the confirmation she needed. Bella jumped up from the bed, phone still pressed to her ear, and rushed to the door. When she flung it open, there he stood, slightly rumpled in jeans and a casual button-down, his phone to his ear and a boyish grin on his face. "Surprise," he said, both through the phone and in person. Bella threw her arms around him, nearly knocking them both over with the force of her enthusiasm. "How? When? I thought you had meetings all weekend." "I rescheduled," he said simply, holding her tight. "Couldn't wait until Monday to see you." She pulled back just enough to kiss him, pouring 2 weeks of missing him into the contact. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Quentin pressed his forehead to hers. "I missed you too," he murmured, answering her unspoken sentiment. They spent the next day exploring Big Sur together. Bella showed him her favorite spots from the shoot, taking personal photos, this time Quentin looking out over the Pacific, both of them reflected in tide pools, their entwined shadows on the sand. It felt like a perfect epilogue to her assignment, and a reminder of what waited for her beyond work. As they drove back to the city the following day, Quentin seemed thoughtful, occasionally glancing at Bella before returning his attention to the coastal highway. "Something on your mind?" she finally asked. He smiled slightly. "Just thinking about the future. Care to elaborate? Because that's a pretty broad topic." Quentin tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. "The magazine offered you the contributor position, right?" "Yes, they called yesterday." "I'll be doing 6 feature spreads over the next year, plus some smaller assignments. That's going to mean more travel." Bella studied his profile, trying to read his expression. "Yes, is that going to be a problem?" "Not a problem," he said quickly. "More of an opportunity, actually. I've been thinking about making some changes myself." "What kind of changes?" He took a deep breath. "I'm considering stepping back from day-to-day operations at Horizon." This was unexpected. "What? Why? I thought you loved running the company." "I do," he nodded. "But I've been building this thing since I was 22. I've never taken more than a week off. I've created a solid executive team, but I've never fully trusted them to function without me." He glanced at her. "Meeting you has made me realize what I've been missing by being all in on work all the time. Quentin, I would never ask you to step back from your company for me. You're not asking. I'm choosing." His voice was firm. "The truth is, watching you these past few months, how you balance your passion for photography with actually living your life, it's made me reevaluate. I don't want to be 65 with nothing but a successful company to show for my life." Bella reached over to place her hand on his thigh. "What exactly are you proposing? Not retiring, surely?" He laughed. "God, no. I'd drive us both crazy within a week. I'm thinking more of a restructuring. Promoting my COO to handle more of the operational decisions, focusing my energy on strategic direction and new initiatives." And this would give you more flexibility. That's the plan. More control over my schedule, less need to be physically present for every decision. He covered her hand with his. More ability to join you on assignments occasionally, or at least meet you when you're done. More time for us to figure out what we want our life together to look like. The phrase, our life together, hung in the air between them, weighty with implication. They hadn't explicitly discussed long-term plans, though it had been clear for months that they were both all in. Our life together, Bella repeated softly. Is that where we're headed? Quentin signaled and pulled the car into a scenic overlook. Putting the vehicle in park, he turned to face her fully. Bella, I hope that's where we're headed. I love you. I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. These past months have been the happiest of my life, and the 2 weeks you were gone only confirmed what I already knew. I want to build a future with you. Tears pricked at Bella's eyes. I love you too. And yes, that's what I want too. I just didn't want to assume. Assume away, he smiled, reaching to brush a tear from her cheek. I'm not saying we need to define everything right now. We can take our time figuring out the details. I just wanted you to know that when I think about my future, you're central to that vision. They sealed this new understanding with a kiss, the vast Pacific spreading out below them like a promise of possibilities. As fall arrived, bringing cooler temperatures and changing leaves, Bella and Quentin settled into their evolving relationship. True to his word, Quentin restructured his role at Horizon Industries, delegating more responsibility to his leadership team. The transition wasn't without challenges. He struggled to truly let go of control in some areas, but the results were undeniable. He worked fewer weekends, traveled less frequently for routine matters, and even took his first 2-week vacation in a decade to join Bella on an assignment in New Zealand. For her part, Bella's career flourished with the magazine contract. Her distinctive style, finding intimate human moments within grand landscapes, garnered praise from critics and readers alike. She maintained her wedding photography business on a more selective basis, choosing clients whose visions aligned with her artistic sensibilities. They hadn't officially moved in together, but they spent most nights at Quentin's penthouse, which offered more space for both of them to work when needed. Bella had gradually migrated many of her belongings there, and Quentin had cleared out an entire room to serve as her home office and editing space. One crisp October evening, they were hosting dinner for James and Mia, their first time entertaining as a couple. Bella was putting finishing touches on the table setting while Quentin handled the cooking, something he discovered a genuine talent for now that he had time to practice. I still can't believe you two got together because of our vow renewal, Mia said, sipping her wine as she watched Bella arrange flowers. Talk about things coming full circle. Don't act like you weren't trying to play matchmaker, Bella laughed. You practically shoved me in his direction at the reception. I did no such thing. I merely provided information about his single status and impressive career achievements. Mia's innocent expression fooled no one. Well, whatever your level of involvement, I'm grateful, Bella admitted. I might never have given him a chance if you hadn't vouched for him. Please, he's ridiculously handsome, successful, and was clearly smitten with you from the start. You would have come around eventually. From the kitchen, Quentin called out, I can hear you discussing me, you know. The apartment isn't that big. Only saying nice things, honey, Bella called back, exchanging an amused glance with Mia. James emerged from the kitchen, beer in hand. Your boyfriend is a control freak in the kitchen. He just shooed me away for hovering incorrectly near the risotto. The steam pattern is important, Quentin defended, appearing in the doorway with a dish towel over his shoulder. And you were breathing on it. See what I've had to put up with since college, James said to Bella. And now you've encouraged his culinary dictatorship by actually appreciating his cooking. If the result is his truffle risotto, I'll encourage all the dictatorship he wants, Bella replied, moving to Quentin's side and kissing his cheek. The evening progressed with easy conversation and much laughter. Watching Quentin with his oldest friend, Bella was struck by how relaxed he seemed, so different from the focused businessman she'd glimpsed at the charity gala. This was Quentin in his element, among people he truly cared about. After dinner, as they sat in the living room with dessert and coffee, James raised his glass in an impromptu toast. "To old friends and new beginnings," he said, his eyes moving meaningfully between Quentin and Bella. "I haven't seen this guy so happy since our team won the intramural basketball championship sophomore year." "That's setting the bar pretty low," Quentin laughed, but his hand found Bella's, squeezing gently. Later, after their friends had left, they stood side by side at the sink, washing dishes in comfortable silence. Bella was thinking about how natural it felt, this domesticity they'd fallen into when Quentin spoke. "They're right, you know." "About what?" "I've never been happier." He handed her a plate to dry. "This us, tonight, having friends over, making plans for the future, it's everything I didn't know I was missing." Bella set down her towel and turned to face him, suddenly serious. "Quentin, can I ask you something? Anything? You want me to move in officially?" "Because I practically live here already, and keeping my apartment seems silly at this point." A slow smile spread across his face. "I was going to ask you the same thing this weekend. I even had a whole romantic dinner planned." "Oh." "I didn't mean to ruin your plans." "You didn't ruin anything," he assured her, pulling her into his arms, hands still damp from the dishwater. "And yes, I absolutely want you to move in. This place has felt like a home since you started staying here, not just somewhere I sleep between work days." "So that's settled then," she smiled up at him. "I'll give notice on my apartment next week." "Or," Quentin said, a new note in his voice, "we could look for a new place together. Something that would be ours from the start, not just mine that you're moving into." Bella's eyes widened. "You'd leave this penthouse. But you love this view and the proximity to your office. I love you more," he said simply. "And I want us to choose a home together, something that reflects both of us. Maybe something with more natural light for your photography or closer to the areas where you like to shoot." Overwhelmed by this offer, Bella could only nod before stretching up to kiss him deeply. When they parted, she whispered against his lips, "I love you, Quentin Quinn." "Yes, let's find our home together." The house hunting process revealed new aspects of their compatibility and occasional points of friction. Quentin valued efficiency and location, sometimes glossing over properties that Bella felt had potential charm. Bella prioritized light and character, occasionally dismissing options Quentin considered perfectly adequate. Their real estate agent, a patient woman named Eleanor, guided them through the process with the diplomacy of a seasoned UN negotiator. After viewing nearly 20 properties, they finally found their perfect match, a renovated Victorian with modern amenities, in a neighborhood known for its artistic community. It offered the space and character Bella craved, while the updated infrastructure and proximity to transit appeased Quentin's practical side. The backyard garden, with its mature trees and hidden nooks, captured both their imaginations. "I can see us here," Quentin said as they stood in the sun-dappled living room during their second viewing. "Having coffee in that window seat, hosting dinner parties in that dining room, maybe someday." He trailed off, but Bella caught his meaning. The house had 4 bedrooms, more space than they currently needed. Space for a future they were both beginning to envision. "Me too," she said softly, squeezing his hand. They made an offer that day, and with Quentin's financial resources, the sale proceeded quickly. By mid-December, they were moving into their new home, merging their lives in the most tangible way yet. The week before Christmas, as they unpacked the last of the boxes in their new home, Quentin suggested they take a break to enjoy the holiday lights in their neighborhood. "We've been unpacking for days," he said, handing Bella her coat. "The boxes will still be here when we get back." They walked hand in hand through the crisp evening, admiring the decorated houses and the light dusting of snow that had fallen that afternoon, a rarity in their coastal city. Quentin seemed unusually quiet, occasionally squeezing her hand or glancing at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Everything okay?" she finally asked as they paused to admire a particularly elaborate light display. "Perfect," he assured her, though his voice held a slight tremor. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a year. Last Christmas I worked through the holidays. This year I have a new home, new priorities, and you." "It has been quite a year," she agreed, leaning into his side. They continued walking until they reached a small neighborhood park, its trees wrapped in twinkling white lights. To Bella's surprise, Quentin led her to a gazebo at the center, which was beautifully decorated with evergreen boughs and more lights. "This wasn't on our regular route," she observed as they stepped into the illuminated structure. "I may have planned a slight detour," he admitted with a nervous smile. Before Bella could question him further, Quentin took both her hands in his. "Bella, when I met you at that Vow Renewal, I had no idea how completely you would change my life. I was so focused on building my company that I forgot to build a life. You reminded me what really matters: connection, joy, balance, love." Her heart began to race as she realized where this might be heading. "This past year with you has been the happiest of my life," he continued, his blue eyes intense in the glow of the lights. "Moving in together, finding our home, these have been steps toward the future I want. But there's one more step I'd like to take." With that, he knelt before her on one knee, snow dampening his pant leg as he reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. "Bella Reinhart, you've captured my heart more completely than any photograph could. Would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife?" He opened the box to reveal a stunning ring, a round diamond set in platinum, surrounded by smaller sapphires that matched his eyes. Tears blurred Bella's vision as she nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Finally, she managed to whisper, "Yes, yes, Quentin, I'll marry you." His face broke into a radiant smile as he slid the ring onto her finger, then stood to pull her into a passionate kiss. When they parted, both breathing heavily, she noticed movement from the corner of her eye. "Did that bush just move?" she asked, confused. Quentin laughed. "That would be our friends. I may have arranged for a photographer to capture the moment. I thought you might appreciate having this memory preserved professionally." On cue, Mia burst from behind a nearby tree, accompanied by a woman with a professional camera. "You said yes, right?" Mia called, rushing toward them. "Please tell me you said yes." "I said yes," Bella confirmed, laughing through her tears as Mia enveloped her in a hug. "The ring fits perfectly," Mia whispered in her ear. "You can thank me later for sneaking your ring size to him." As James emerged to congratulate them, followed by a few other close friends, Bella realized Quentin had orchestrated not just a proposal but a celebration. The photographer continued capturing moments as champagne appeared from hidden coolers and toasts were made in the twinkling gazebo. Later, as they walked home hand in hand now, with an engagement ring catching the light, Bella looked up at her fiancé with wonder. "You planned all of this?" "The lights, the photographer, the friends. I wanted it to be perfect for you," he said simply. "You preserve everyone else's special moments. I thought you deserved to have one of your own properly documented." "It was perfect," she assured him, squeezing his hand. although I'm a little disturbed by how well you and Mia conspired behind my back. She was instrumental in the ring selection process, he admitted with a laugh. Apparently, I need to develop a better eye for jewelry. As they approached their new home, now truly theirs in every sense, Bella felt a profound contentment settle over her. From that chance meeting at her friend's Vow Renewal to this moment, their journey had unfolded with a rightness that felt both surprising and inevitable. Standing on their porch, keys in hand, Quentin paused before unlocking the door. "Welcome home, future Mrs. Quinn." "I like the sound of that," she smiled, stretching up to kiss him as snowflakes began to fall around them, adding magic to an already perfect night. Spring arrived with a flurry of wedding preparations, alongside Bella's photography assignments and Quentin's newly restructured work responsibilities. They had decided on a June wedding almost exactly a year after they'd met at Mia and James's Vow Renewal. Planning their ceremony prompted many conversations about what they valued individually and as a couple. Quentin, who could have afforded the most lavish celebration imaginable, surprised Bella with his preference for something intimate and meaningful rather than ostentatious. "I spend enough time at formal corporate events," he explained as they discussed venues. "Our wedding should feel personal, not like another networking opportunity." They settled on hosting both ceremony and reception at their home, transforming the garden Bella had already begun photographing in different seasons. The guest list was limited to 100 people, close friends, family, and a few carefully selected colleagues who had become genuine friends. One evening in late April, as they sat on their porch swing reviewing wedding details, Bella broached a topic that had been on her mind. "I was thinking about the photography for our wedding," she began tentatively. "Please tell me you're not planning to photograph our own wedding," Quentin said with mock horror. "Even you can't be in two places at once." She laughed. "No, but I'm very particular about photography styles, as you might imagine. I've been thinking of asking Alina Rodriguez. She has this beautiful documentary approach that captures authentic moments without a lot of artificial posing." "I trust your professional judgment completely," Quentin assured her. "Whoever you think will best capture our day is fine with me." He paused, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Actually, I had a somewhat related idea I wanted to run by you." "Oh, what would you think about starting a foundation together? Something that combines my business background with your artistic expertise?" Bella tilted her head, intrigued. "What kind of foundation?" "I was thinking something that provides arts education and business training to underprivileged youth. Photography, equipment, and classes, combined with entrepreneurial skills." His eyes lit up as he explained further. "Many kids have creative talents but no access to equipment or training, and they certainly don't learn how to monetize those skills in school. Like a pathway to creative careers," Bella nodded, already envisioning possibilities. "That's actually a brilliant idea, Quentin. We could start small, partner with a few schools or community centers. You could even teach some workshops when your schedule allows." He took her hand. "It would be something meaningful we build together, separate from both our existing careers." The foundation idea took root alongside their wedding plans, giving them a shared project that extended beyond their personal relationship. Bella found herself researching successful arts education programs, while Quentin began quietly setting aside capital for the foundation's endowment. As their wedding day approached, Bella experienced the strange sensation of being on the other side of the event planning process. Having photographed countless weddings, she now found herself the subject of the very traditions she had documented for others. The night before their wedding, after the rehearsal dinner, Mia insisted on tradition. Bella would stay at Mia's house, while Quentin remained at their home. It's bad luck to see each other before the ceremony, Mia declared, overriding Quentin's protests. That's a superstition from the days of arranged marriages, he pointed out, when the groom might back out if he saw the bride before the financial transaction was complete. Still tradition, Mia insisted. Besides, it'll make tomorrow's reveal all the more special. So Bella found herself in Mia's guest room, too excited to sleep despite the late hour. She was scrolling through photos on her phone, images of her and Quentin throughout their relationship, when a text from him appeared. "Quentin, can't sleep. The house feels empty without you." Bella smiled, typing back, "Just one more night. Then you're stuck with me forever, Quentin. Best sentence I've ever read. I love you, Bella Reinhart. Can't wait to call you my wife. Bella, I love you too. See you at the altar, CEO." The wedding day dawned clear and perfect, as if specially ordered for the occasion. Bella spent the morning with Mia and her mother, getting ready in a calm, unhurried pace so different from the rushed preparations she'd witnessed at many weddings. Her dress was simple but elegant, an off-shoulder design in ivory silk that skimmed her figure before flaring slightly at the hem. She wore her hair down in loose waves, with small white flowers woven through the auburn strands. "You look absolutely beautiful," her father said when he arrived to escort her, his eyes suspiciously bright. "Your mother would have been so proud of the woman you've become." Bella blinked back tears, careful of her makeup. "I wish she could be here." "She is, in her way," he assured her, patting his pocket where he kept a small photo of her mother. "I'll have her right here as I walk you down the aisle." The ceremony itself was everything they had hoped for: personal, intimate, and deeply meaningful. They had written their own vows, and Bella felt her heart might burst as Quentin promised to support her dreams, respect her independence, and love her through whatever challenges life might bring. When she spoke her own vows, her photographer's eye couldn't help but notice the perfect image they must create: the golden late afternoon light filtering through the trees, casting a natural spotlight on their joined hands, and the tears glistening in Quentin's usually composed eyes. "By the power vested in me," the officiant concluded, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." As Quentin leaned down to seal their marriage with a kiss, the gathered friends and family erupted in applause. Bella felt a sense of completion, as if a perfect circle had formed from that first meeting at Mia's Vow Renewal to this moment, beginning their own marriage in the home they had chosen together. The reception flowed seamlessly from ceremony to celebration, with dinner served under string lights in their garden and dancing on a temporary floor installed for the occasion. True to his word, Quentin had ensured the event felt personal rather than corporate. There were no sponsored tables, no networking opportunities disguised as toasts, just genuine celebration with people who truly cared about them. As the evening progressed, Bella found Quentin watching her from across the dance floor, a soft smile on his face. He crossed to her, extending his hand. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Quinn?" "You may, Mr. Quinn," she replied, slipping her hand into his as the band began playing a slow, romantic melody. As they swayed together, other couples joining them on the dance floor, Quentin leaned down to speak softly in her ear. "Happy?" "Completely," she assured him, resting her head against his chest. "Everything is perfect." "Even though you had to trust someone else with the photography," she laughed. "Elena's doing a beautiful job. I haven't felt the urge to grab her camera once." "High praise indeed." He twirled her gently, then pulled her back to him. "You know, a year ago I was dreading being best man at James's Vow Renewal. I had a major deal closing that week and saw the whole event as an inconvenient obligation. And now I'm thanking whatever twist of fate put us both there at the same time." His arms tightened around her. Best obligation I ever fulfilled. As the evening wound down, with guests gradually departing with warm hugs and well wishes, Bella and Quentin found themselves sitting on the porch swing, the same spot where they had planned much of this day. It went by so quickly, Bella mused, leaning against his shoulder. All those months of planning, and it's over in hours. Not over, Quentin corrected gently. Just beginning. The wedding is one day, the marriage is our life together. She smiled up at him. When did you get so wise? I have an exceptional teacher in what matters beyond business success. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. Speaking of which, I have something for you. From his pocket, he produced a small wrapped box. Bella opened it to find a delicate gold locket. Open it, he urged softly. Inside was a tiny photograph, one she recognized from their very first date, a selfie they had taken against the sunset over the ocean. On the opposite side was an inscription, the first of countless moments captured together. It's beautiful, she whispered, deeply touched by the thoughtfulness of the gift. I know we'll take thousands of photographs throughout our life together, he said as he helped her fasten the necklace. But I wanted you to always carry this first one close to your heart. As the last guests departed, and they were finally alone in their home as husband and wife, Bella reflected on the extraordinary journey of the past year. From photographer at a friend's vow renewal to bride at her own wedding, from casual acquaintance to soul mate, from independent individual to partner in both life and purpose, each step had felt both surprising and inevitable. What are you thinking? Quentin asked as they stood in their bedroom, the sounds of the cleanup crew fading as they finished their work in the garden. I'm thinking about how quickly life can change, she replied honestly. A year ago, I didn't know you existed. Now I can't imagine my life without you. You'll never have to, he promised, drawing her into his arms. Whatever adventures come next, the foundation, your photography, my company, maybe someday a family of our own, will face them together. Together, she echoed, sealing the promise with a kiss that held all the love, passion, and commitment of their vows. Outside their window, the garden where they had just pledged their lives to each other lay in peaceful moonlight. The remnants of their celebration being cleared away, but the memory of it, like all the meaningful moments of their relationship, preserved not just in the photographs that would eventually fill their albums, but in the deep connection they had forged. From a chance meeting at a vow renewal to a love that transformed both their lives, Bella and Quentin had discovered that sometimes the most perfect images aren't captured by a camera, but by the heart, developed not in darkrooms but in the light of day-to-day love, commitment, and shared purpose. And as they began their first night as husband and wife, both knew with absolute certainty that the best frames of their story were yet to be filled.